In today's exciting episode, we count down some of the scary unresolved mysteries caught on camera. Research into some of the most bizarre mysteries ever caught. Is there some myth? Or are they just false stories? Let us know. The top 10 unresolved mysteries caught on camera. Before we start with the countdown, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for more amazing videos. Number 10. Strange spiral in the sky. Just what created the big blue spiral in the sky over Norway in the early morning hours on December 9, 2009? Are they time-traveling Borgs? Psychedelic aliens? Most likely it was something much more terrestrial and much more boring. Many reports say it was the failed launch of a Russian rocket, probably a Bulava ICBM, a problem-plagued Russian missile that reportedly had several test launches scheduled. Who knows? Although Russian officials have confirmed this, and in fact, one official denied there was any rocket launch in the area. An anonymous Russian military source actually was failed launch from a submarine in the White Sea early Wednesday morning, but this was not the official news. What is the truth? God knows well. Number 9. The Sundog. Sundogs don't bark, and they don't shake their tails. They also won't eat your homework. What they do, however, is amaze onlookers and get people pointing up at the sky. Bright colored areas of light besides the sun are known as sundogs. They're often approximately 22 degrees to the left or the right, and about the same distance above the horizon of the sun. They're also often seen as part of a ring or a halo around the sun. Sundogs are known as parhelia in the scientific community, which comes from the Greek word meaning beside the sun. Other common names for sundogs include mock or phantom suns. Sundogs form when there are hexagonal ice crystals in high cloud cirrus clouds. They can also form when ice crystals float in the air during extremely cold weather. Although sundogs are more common when cold weather brings ice crystals into the atmosphere, they can occur anywhere in the world, anytime there are cirrus clouds. Ice crystals in the air act like prisms, bending the sun rays and refracting them in such a way that sundogs appear. Because of the way that the sunlight gets bent, sundogs will often appear red on the side closest to the sun, with a blue or white tail stretching horizontally away from the sun. Scientists don't know how the term sundog originated. Historians do know that the term has been around in art and literature well for over a century. Some experts believe the term may have arisen by way of comparing how parhelia follow the sun to the way a dog follows its master. The sundog phenomenon can also occur at night when the moon is nearly full and particularly bright. These moondogs, or parasolane, aren't seen nearly as often as sundogs because the conditions necessary for their formation don't happen very frequently. Number 8. Mamadas. Mamadas are pouch-like cloud structures. They're also an unusual example of clouds in sinking air. Most clouds form from rising air, although mamadas most often form on the underside of a cumulus. They can develop underneath circumulus, astrolus, altocumulus, and stracumulus. For a mamadas to form, the sinking air must be cooler than the air around it and have high liquid water to ice content. They derive their name from their appearance, like the bag-like sacs that hang underneath the cloud resembles cow udders. Mamadas are long-lived if the air sinking under contains large drops and snow crystals, since larger particles require greater amounts of energy for evaporation to occur. Over time, the cloud droplets do eventually evaporate and the mamadas dissolve. Despite popular misunderstandings, mamadas clouds are not a sign that a tornado is about to form. While associated with thunderstorms, mamadas clouds are not certainly an indicator of severe weather. Mamadas results from the sinking of moist air into dry air. They are in essence upside-down clouds. The sharp boundary of a mamadas is much like the sharp boundary of a rising cumulonimbus cloud before an anvil has formed. 7. Circum Horizontal Arc. Circum Horizontal Arcs, or fire rainbows as are sometimes called, are essentially ice halos created by the reflection of sunlight, or occasionally moonlight, in plate-shaped ice crystals suspended in the atmosphere. They are most regularly spotted in cirrus or cirrulatus clouds, and they can be easily distinguished from 22-degree halos depending on the distance they appear below the sun or moon, twice the distance of the 22s. Since they require that their light source be very high in the sky, at an elevation of 58 degrees or greater, it means that circumhorizontal arcs cannot form north of 55 degrees north or south of 55 degrees south. Happily, for those who live in the continental United States, The 55 parallel rests above the border. They can experience it, so the phenomenon is not an uncommon sight in summer there. 6. Solar eclipse. A solar eclipse occurs when the disk of the moon appears to cross in front of the disk of the sun. A total solar eclipse, like one that passed in the US August 21st of 2017, happens when the disk of the moon blocks 100% of the solar disk. A partial eclipse happens when the moon covers only part of the sun. If the moon passes immediately in the front of the sky when near the apogee, the point in the ecliptical orbit where it is furthest from the sky, sky watchers will see an annular eclipse, also known as a ring of fire. A bit scary, right? The last solar eclipse was an annular eclipse on December 26, 2019, which was visible from Asia and Australia. The last total solar eclipse was a Great South American eclipse on July 2, 2019, which was visible almost completely over South America. Number 5. Moonbow. A moonbow is also commonly referred to as a lunar rainbow that appears to be an unsolved mystery. A moonbow is a rare atmospheric phenomenon that happens when the moon's light is reflected and refracted off water droplets in the air. Moonbows are much fainter than rainbows, created by the sun, and usually appear to be white. This is due to the less amount of light reflected from the surface of the moon. The light from the moon is usually too faint to be perceived by the receptors in the human eye. It is difficult for the human eye to discern colors in a moonbow. Nevertheless, the colors in a moonbow do appear in long exposure photographs. A bright moon near to be its brightest phase identified as a full moon in order to see a moonbow. It must also be raining opposite the moon. The sky must be dark and the moon must be very low in the sky, about 42 degrees above the horizon. All these put together make seeing a moonbow very special and rare. There are some locations around the world where moonbows occur more frequently. Most of these locations tend to have waterfalls which create layers of mist in the air. Some of these locations include Yosemite National Park in California and Cumberland Falls State Park in Kentucky, Victoria Falls on the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe, and Waimea in Hawaii. You must visit there if you want to experience this with your eyes. Number 4. KevinHelmholtz Cloud. An extremely rare phenomenon where a cloud produces a billowing wave pattern. It happens when there are strong vertical shears between two airstreams, causing winds to blow faster at the upper level than at the lower levels. These clouds are named after Hermann von Helmholtz and William Thomson, Lord Kelvin, scientists who studied turbulent airflow. There is no Latin etymology. They occur when two different layers of air in the atmosphere are moving different speeds. When the upper layer of air is moving at a higher speed than the lower layer of air, it may scoop the top of an existing cloud layer into these wave-like rolling shapes. Kelvin-Helmholtz instability is a scientific phenomenon not exclusively associated with clouds. It can occur wherever there is velocity difference across the interference between two fluids. The most obvious example is the wind blowing over water, in which fast-moving air can create waves on the slower-moving water. Number 3. Motherofpearl Clouds. This is a rare nacreous cloud formation appearing 12 miles above the stratosphere. Was recently photographed by scientists at Australia Mawson Station in Antarctica. Nacreous is one of the most attractive of all cloud formations, but they are also the most destructive to our atmosphere. Their presence encourages the chemical reactions that break down the ozone layer, which is essential shield to protect us from the most harmful sun rays. Also known as mother-of-pearl clouds, nacreous clouds exhibit spectacular iridescent pastel colors caused by sunlight diffracting as it passes around their tiny ice crystals. Since they form much higher than common clouds at altitudes between 12 and 15 miles, nacreous clouds are most apparent around sunrise and sunset when their colors stand out against the darkened sky. The stratosphere is extremely dry compared to the cloud-filled lower atmosphere, so the air needs to be very cold indeed for any ice crystals to be able to form there. Number 2. A mirage. A mirage is another unconcluded mystery. This is the naturally happening optical phenomenon in which light rays bend via refraction to produce a displaced image of distant objects in the sky. In opposition to a hallucination, a mirage is a real optical appearance that can be caught on camera, since light rays are actually refracted to form the false images at the observer's location. What the image seems to represent, though, is determined by the interpretive faculties of the human mind. For example, inferior images on land are very easily mistaken for the reflections from a small body of water. To understand how a mirage forms, one must first understand how light travels through the air. If the air is all the same temperature, cold or hot, light travels through it in a straight line. If a steady temperature gradient exists, however, the light will follow a curved path toward the cooler air. The standard freshman physics solution for this phenomenon is that cold air has a higher index of refraction than warm air does. In conclusion, photons, particles of light, travel through hot air faster than they can through cold air because the hot air is less dense. The quantum electrodynamic solution is that photons always take the path of minimum time when traveling from one point to another. In order to get from one point to another in a minimum time, photons will take shortcuts, even though the length of the path is curved and it covers a longer distance than the direct route. Mirages are direct results of photons taking the path of minimum time in vertical temperatures and gradients. Number 1. Strange images appear in the sky at Kitwe. Locals in the city of Kitwe, Zambia, was in for a horror-stricken when they spotted what seemed like a massive human-shaped figure in the clouds above a shopping mall. The apparition resembled a Dementor from the Harry Potter movies and was seen flying over the Mukumba Mall in Kitwe. The image had a large head and torso like the Dementors from the J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter universe. It had a long tail, shaped feet. Witnesses claimed that the apparition was over 100 meters long. The locals flew in terror after sighting the apparition, while some began worshipping the figure, mistaking it for a manifestation of God. The others ran in horror, thinking of an incarnation of the devil himself. The figure remained visible in the sky for half an hour before it dissolved in nothingness. Have you experienced something that's worth sharing? Want to share your unforgettable experience? Tell us in the comments section. Thanks for watching.